Riley Crossman was a bright, vibrant 15-year-old with her whole life ahead of her. She had dreams, she had friends, and she had a family who adored her. But on May 8, 2019, Riley vanished without a trace, leaving her small town of Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, in shock. At first, it seemed like a case of a missing teenager, terrifying, but not unheard of. But as the hours turned to days, unsettling details began to emerge, and a picture of betrayal, heartbreak, and unimaginable tragedy started to take shape. What really happened to Riley Crossman? And how could the truth hide in plain sight, right within the walls of her own home? Stay with me as we unravel the twists and turns of a case that stunned an entire community and left a family forever changed. Riley Grace Crossman was a vibrant, artistic, and caring 15-year-old who lit up every room she entered. Born on December 22, 2003, she was the eldest of 4 siblings in her tight-knit family in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. Riley's smile was infectious, and she was known for her love of art, her dedication to school, and her aspirations to make a meaningful impact in the world. As a freshman at Berkeley Springs High School, she excelled academically and was popular among her peers, who admired her creativity and kindness. Riley had a special bond with her mother, Chantel Oakley, and often helped care for her younger siblings. She was the glue that held the family together, always lending a helping hand with a smile that could light up the darkest days. Her relationship with her grandmother was equally close. The two often shared long conversations over tea, where Riley would excitedly talk about her dreams of becoming an artist and traveling the world. On weekends, she loved sketching in her notebook, drawing her favorite scenes from nature or characters from her imagination, while her grandmother admired her talent. Despite her family's modest circumstances, Riley's optimism and determination shone brightly. She often spoke about wanting to make her mother proud, helping to create a better future for her siblings. Her laughter echoed in the halls of their home, a testament to her resilient spirit. But beneath her cheerful demeanor, Riley was perceptive and sensitive. She occasionally expressed unease about her mother's boyfriend, Andy McCauley, though she tried not to burden her family with her concerns. This intuition, though dismissed at the time, hinted at an undercurrent of tension that would later unravel their lives in ways none of them could have foreseen. On the evening of May 7, 2019, Riley returned home after school to find her mother resting on the couch, unwell from her second job's grueling schedule. After sharing a quiet dinner with her grandmother, Riley retreated to her bedroom upstairs to prepare for the next school day. She exchanged a few light-hearted messages with friends, including one to her boyfriend about an upcoming project they were excited to work on together. Yet, beneath the ordinary rhythm of the evening, there was an air of unease that Riley couldn't quite place. As Chantel, still under the weather, headed out for her night shift, she assured herself that Riley was safe at home. Riley's grandmother, who stayed downstairs, heard the soft sounds of Riley's television playing. The home seemed tranquil, a sharp contrast to what was unfolding outside its walls. Unbeknownst to Chantel, someone else in the household had their own plans that night, plans that would shatter the peace and leave an irreversible mark on their lives. The next morning, May 8th, Chantel noticed Riley's bedroom light was off, and her bed appeared undisturbed. She assumed Riley had left early for school, but when Riley didn't return home that afternoon and calls to her phone went unanswered, Chantel's concern turned to panic. Riley's grandmother, worried as well, checked with the school and discovered that Riley hadn't attended her classes. The family's worst fears began to materialize. Riley was missing, but what her family didn't know was that the answers they desperately needed were closer than they imagined. As hours turned into days, Riley's family filed a missing persons report with the Morgan County Sheriff's Office. The community of Berkeley Springs quickly rallied around them, organizing search parties, distributing flyers, and flooding social media with pleas for information. Candlelight vigils were held, with hundreds gathering to offer prayers and share memories of Riley, hoping against hope for her safe return. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers joined the search, their hearts heavy with worry and dread. Search teams combed through nearby woods and streams, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence of the dense forests. Volunteers described the experience as emotionally grueling, the weight of their mission evident in every whispered word and exchanged glance. Each rustling branch and snapped twig brought a wave of apprehension, as if the forest itself held the secrets to Riley's disappearance. Meanwhile, community members shared every detail they could recall, desperate to assist investigators. Social media lit up with theories, sightings, and words of encouragement for the family. Though the search efforts were united by hope, an undercurrent of fear began to creep in. How could someone vanish so completely? And worse, what if the answers they sought pointed closer to home than anyone dared to imagine? Authorities began their investigation by examining Riley's phone records and social media activity. They found unsettling details. Riley's last text message, sent late on the night of May 7th, mentioned her mother's boyfriend, Andy McCauley. In the message to her boyfriend, she wrote, "Andy is in my room. I'm scared." The chilling words added urgency to the investigation. Law enforcement also tracked Riley's phone location. The signal had last pinged near a remote stretch of Tuscarora Pike in Berkeley County. A place unfamiliar to Riley's family, the area was dense with trees and difficult to access, an unlikely location for anyone unfamiliar with the terrain to venture. Search teams scoured the embankment, their every step weighted by the haunting possibility of what they might find. Each rustling leaf and overturned stone brought a sense of foreboding. Meanwhile, detectives revisited Andy McCauley's account of his movements. In his statements, he claimed he had been nowhere near the area, but surveillance footage and GPS data painted a starkly different picture. His work truck's route appeared to have taken a suspicious detour late at night. When confronted with these inconsistencies, McCauley's demeanor shifted. His initial confidence gave way to vague answers and visible agitation. Investigators noted his reluctance to cooperate further, and the way he avoided direct eye contact.
She's not back yet? You mind if we take a look in her bedroom?
Has she ever disappeared before?
She doesn't leave without my permission. She doesn't not text me when I text her.
What does she normally take with her when she leaves?
Her book bag, her phone.
Her phone's not in here.
Not that I've found.
I was going to talk to you with that farm around. Arguing here last night, or the night before, anything, any reason she would leave?
No.
Okay. There's a rumor going around, people telling us that she was afraid. I was going to talk to you with that farm around. Arguing here last night, or the night before, anything, any reason she would leave?
No.
Okay. There's a rumor going around, people telling us that she was afraid to come home. I don't know if that's, you know how people go sometimes. But
No, there's nothing like that.
okay. So,
She wouldn't have to be here. I mean, they're right. They ain't like that. It's never like that.
he says nothing.
Her mom wasn't even home.
Right.
She's at work.
No, you. They said that she got an argument
No,
with you and,
no.
and didn't want to come home.
No.
So, I don't know.
She was her you can ask your grandma. She was here doing dishes and everything. Her grandma was here till 7:30.
Okay.
Debbie.
Right.
Yeah.
When's the last time you saw her?
About 9, maybe 10ish.
At night?
Yeah.
And what context was that?
Oh, she was here in the house. She went to bed probably. Well, I don't know what time she went to bed, but she was. All the kids were in the room by like 9:30.
Did she leave in the morning?
No, I left I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Left 5.
Okay.
Go to work.
As the pieces of the puzzle came together, the trail leading to McCauley seemed increasingly irrefutable. But what searchers hoped they wouldn't uncover was slowly becoming unavoidable. The grim reality of Riley's fate lay just within reach. Authorities discovered a connection that would unravel the case, but it wasn't what anyone expected. As investigators pored over Riley's digital footprint, a chilling thread began to emerge. Her last text message pointed directly at Andy McCauley, but it was the details hidden in her social media interactions that painted an even darker picture. Friends of Riley revealed that she had expressed discomfort about McCauley's behavior in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, though she had never shared specifics that would alarm anyone. Detectives began piecing together a timeline of McCauley's movements on the night of May 7th. Surveillance cameras from nearby businesses captured his work truck, traveling erratically through areas far from his usual routes. Witnesses recalled seeing the truck idling near a secluded area, its engine running as if its driver was waiting for something, or someone. Phone records placed him near Tuscarora Pike during the critical hours after Riley's last known communication, a location McCauley could not convincingly explain being near. Each new piece of evidence seemed to pull a sinister curtain back, revealing McCauley's web of deceit. Investigators also found strange gaps in his phone activity, suggesting that his device had been deliberately turned off for crucial periods, possibly to avoid tracking. When they analyzed further, faint traces of debris in his truck, fibers and soil, matched the remote area around Tuscarora Pike. These findings, though subtle, added chilling weight to the suspicion that Macaulay had planned his actions methodically, knowing the terrain well. The once seemingly circumstantial clues now began forming an unshakable picture. With every revelation, the investigators felt an increasing sense of dread, knowing they were uncovering a meticulously planned series of events with a devastating end. Yet, the most haunting discovery was still to come, a revelation that would not only confirm suspicions, but would also solidify the heartbreaking truth behind Riley's disappearance. Andy Macaulay, Chantel's boyfriend, had been living with the family for several months. He was no stranger to trouble. His criminal history included questionable offenses and a reputation for erratic behavior. He had a demeanor that seemed friendly on the surface, but concealed a darker side that few had seen directly. At first, Macaulay claimed he had been working late on May 7th and had no interaction with Riley. However, as investigators dug deeper, his story began to crumble under scrutiny. Detectives unearthed inconsistencies in Macaulay's timeline. Several co-workers reported that he had left the job site earlier than usual, an unexplained departure that coincided with the critical hours of Riley's disappearance. When questioned further, Macaulay became visibly nervous, avoiding direct answers and resorting to vague, unconvincing claims. His calm facade began to crumble under the weight of the investigators' pointed inquiries. Adding to the pressure, surveillance footage from traffic cameras confirmed Macaulay's truck had not only deviated from his typical route, but had also lingered in the vicinity of Tuscarora Pike for an extended period. The footage showed his vehicle driving slowly along the isolated stretch, its headlights occasionally flicking off, as if he didn't want to attract attention. This was no simple case of getting lost. The evidence pointed to deliberate actions. When asked why his truck was seen near Tuscarora Pike, Macaulay provided a vague and implausible explanation, claiming he got lost on his way home, a route he should have known well after years of living in the area. Investigators noted his stammering and shifting demeanor, clear signs of mounting anxiety. Each question seemed to tighten the noose around his story, exposing cracks in his web of lies and leaving investigators more certain than ever that Macaulay was hiding something significant. Every new question seemed to push Macaulay further into a corner. Investigators noted his avoidance of direct eye contact, the tension in his voice, and his visible agitation whenever Riley's name was mentioned. The walls were closing in, and the cracks in his story were beginning to show.
What if I told you her last text to her boyfriend were saying, don't talk, because she still has the FaceTime on? Andy's in here. I'm afraid.
That's what it said.
What if I told you that?
I would say that's crazy.
I can put my hand on the Bible and tell you I saw those texts today.
Well, I like to see him because I knew probably he was scared of me. I know she was.
Not only that, she said you were in here and she was in her bedroom because the FaceTime was still on.
I was never in her room.
That's not what she's saying.
I don't go in her room.
Andy, I'm not lying to you.
I was not in her room, for one. And for two, the kid's not scared of her. There's no reason for her to be scared of me. I've been there in her life for a year and a half. Taking care of her, giving her everything she needs.
What we're saying, like I get that, I hear you, but what we're saying is that's what she's saying. So obviously to her, she's afraid of something.
Revealing a harrowing truth beneath the lies. Detectives noticed Macaulay's evasive demeanor during questioning. His responses were clipped, his body language defensive. Surveillance footage from his workplace revealed his truck leaving the site much earlier than he had claimed, a glaring inconsistency that raised immediate red flags. Investigators carefully scrutinized the footage, noting his vehicle heading in the direction of Tuscarora Pike at a time when he should have been nowhere near the area. Further analysis of the footage revealed moments that were impossible to dismiss. Macaulay's truck appeared to slow down as it approached a particularly isolated stretch of road, its headlights briefly turned off before resuming. This action, captured in a grainy frame, spoke volumes about a deliberate attempt to avoid detection. Questions mounted. What had Macaulay been doing in such a secluded location, and why had he felt the need to obscure his movements? Adding to the suspicion, investigators traced his phone records, which revealed a suspicious gap in activity coinciding with the time frame captured on the footage. Macaulay claimed his phone battery had died, yet his co-workers recalled seeing him charge the device earlier that day. The mounting inconsistencies transformed Macaulay from a person of interest into the primary suspect, and detectives braced themselves for the truths they were about to uncover. Even more concerning, his truck was spotted idling near a secluded section of the road, where Riley's phone last pinged. A local resident reported seeing a similar vehicle parked late that night, its headlights off, adding to the growing suspicion. This quiet observation took on an ominous weight as detectives reconstructed the timeline. Why would Macaulay lie about his whereabouts unless he had something to hide? As Macaulay fidgeted during questioning, investigators pressed harder. His evasions deepened their certainty that they were onto something critical. Each piece of surveillance footage, each witness statement, and each data point added to a picture that grew darker and more unrelenting. The net was tightening, but the most damning evidence had yet to be uncovered, leaving investigators wondering what secrets lay buried in Macaulay's silence. Forensic evidence began to pile up. Investigators found traces of drywall residue on Riley's belongings that matched materials from Macaulay's truck, a detail that could not be dismissed as coincidence. The residue provided a physical link between Riley and the vehicle suspected to have transported her. It suggested that Macaulay had been in much closer contact with Riley's belongings than he initially admitted. Detectives also found faint smears of an unidentified substance in the truck's bed, raising further questions about its use that night. As the evidence mounted, Macaulay's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He began avoiding direct questioning, often deflecting with irrelevant answers or claiming lapses in memory. During one interrogation, he visibly shifted in his chair, his voice trembling as investigators presented the growing list of findings. His explanations became less credible by the minute, riddled with contradictions and gaps that only deepened the detectives' resolve. Adding to the unease, neighbors reported hearing strange noises late on May 7th, including what sounded like heavy dragging and muffled voices near Macaulay's property. One neighbor recounted seeing a dim light flickering in an otherwise dark area behind his house, a detail that sent chills through investigators as they pieced together the timeline. These eerie accounts, paired with the forensic discoveries, painted a grim and increasingly undeniable picture. Someone had gone to great lengths to cover their tracks, leaving behind only fragments of a deeply disturbing truth. More chillingly, the investigators discovered that Macaulay had made a stop at a nearby convenience store earlier that night. Surveillance footage from the store captured him purchasing items that seemed mundane at first glance: plastic bags, cleaning supplies, and gloves. However, when taken in the context of the unfolding evidence, these purchases took on a sinister significance. Investigators noted that Macaulay appeared calm but unusually methodical in the footage, scanning the aisles as if following a premeditated list. The choice of items painted a chilling picture of his intentions. What stood out most to detectives was the precision of Macaulay's actions, a grim indication that this was no spur-of-the-moment decision. A receipt from the store further corroborated the purchases, time-stamped to align almost perfectly with the window of Riley's last known activity. The meticulous nature of his actions indicated a deliberate effort to erase any trace of what had occurred. Still, as investigators delved deeper, the gaps in his plan began to surface. They discovered that Macaulay's truck had been parked at an odd angle outside the store, as captured by exterior surveillance. This subtle detail suggested he was in a hurry, potentially rushing to complete what he knew would be a harrowing night. Each new clue drew a tighter circle around Macaulay, exposing the horrors of what had taken place. But even with evidence mounting, authorities needed one critical piece to solve the puzzle. On May 16, 2019, a breakthrough came when a Department of Transportation worker discovered a concealed location near an embankment off Tuscarora Pike. The area was remote, hidden from view, and accessible only by someone familiar with the terrain. The worker initially noticed a faint, unpleasant odor emanating from the embankment, which prompted closer inspection. As he approached, the sight of scattered debris and unusual markings on the ground left him uneasy. The worker soon realized the gravity of his discovery when he uncovered evidence that hinted at a deliberate attempt to hide something. There were signs of a hastily dug covering, disturbed earth, and traces of black plastic partially exposed. The scene was eerily silent except for the rustling of leaves, but the tension was palpable. Law enforcement was immediately called to the site, and the area was cordoned off as investigators arrived to begin their grim work. As investigators carefully examined the location, the realization dawned on them that this was no ordinary site. The evidence suggested a calculated effort to conceal a horrific crime. Fragments of black plastic protruded from the disturbed earth, fluttering slightly in the breeze, a haunting reminder of what might lie beneath. Footprints, partially obscured by rain, hinted at a frantic and hurried departure. Shovels and tools had been used, but the job was rushed, a sign that the perpetrator feared discovery even in this remote location. The discovery shocked even seasoned officers. Among the fragments, they found faint traces of personal belongings that could have belonged to Riley, including fabric scraps and a broken charm bracelet. Items that made the cold reality of the scene hit harder. Each step closer revealed more evidence of what had been a hasty yet methodical cover-up. Soil samples collected from the scene carried hints of chemicals that suggested an attempt to hasten decomposition, adding a new layer of malice to the already grim discovery. The air was heavy, not just with the physical odor of the site, but with the emotional weight of what the investigators knew they were about to uncover, the darkest chapter of this case, now coming fully into view. The discovery intensified the focus on Andy McCauley. Additional forensic evidence, including fibers and residues linking him to the area, sealed his fate. Investigators pieced together a timeline. McCauley had entered Riley's space on the night of May 7th, likely under the cover of darkness when the household was quiet. The evidence suggested he had approached with calculated intent, ensuring no trace of his actions would lead back to him. Investigators uncovered chilling details that pointed to the premeditation of his actions. In addition to the fibers, soil samples from his truck bed matched the area where Riley's belongings were found. Investigators theorized that McCauley had specifically chosen this remote location, knowing its isolation would delay discovery. A forensic sweep of his vehicle revealed smudges and faint streaks, consistent with an attempt to clean surfaces, yet traces of personal belongings, including strands of hair, remained hidden in crevices. This pointed to a rushed effort to erase evidence, betraying an underlying panic despite his outwardly calm demeanor. Further analysis of the truck unearthed more chilling clues. A faint trail of dried mud embedded in the tires matched samples from the secluded area, placing his vehicle there during the critical hours. Additionally, chemical traces found in the truck's interior hinted at cleaning agents hastily used in a failed attempt to obscure what had transpired. Each finding painted a vivid picture of someone trying but failing to cover their tracks. These findings spoke volumes about the horrifying events that had unfolded. To detectives, every new detail revealed McCauley's cold and calculated intent, combined with the desperation of someone who knew his actions would not remain hidden forever. The case against him grew stronger with each passing revelation. McCauley then transported her belongings to the remote site. The secluded location, surrounded by dense woods and difficult to access without prior knowledge, made clear his efforts to conceal what had happened. The forensic trail told a story of desperation, methodically eroded by investigators' relentless pursuit of the truth. Each detail brought them closer to understanding the full scope of his actions, which painted a haunting and inescapable picture of culpability. The truth about what happened to Riley finally came to light in the courtroom. Andy McCauley was arrested and charged with serious offenses, including concealment and harm-related charges. His trial, held in September 2021, drew widespread attention due to the nature of the case and the betrayal it represented. The prosecution presented a compelling case, meticulously weaving together forensic evidence, surveillance footage, and Riley's haunting final text message. Each piece of evidence was like a spotlight, piercing through McCauley's web of deception. Prosecutors detailed how fibers, residues, and soil samples from McCauley's truck connected him to the crime scene with chilling precision. Surveillance footage captured his movements, showing him at key locations that aligned with the timeline of Riley's disappearance. The text message, "Andy is in my room. I'm scared," was read aloud in court, its stark implications sending ripples of emotion through the courtroom. Witness testimonies added weight, painting a damning portrait of McCauley's erratic behavior leading up to the crime. McCauley's defense team struggled to create doubt. They argued the evidence was purely circumstantial, emphasizing the lack of direct eyewitnesses and DNA conclusively linking him to the crime. They pointed out that some of the forensic evidence, such as the fibers and soil traces, could potentially be explained by innocent contact. Yet, Their arguments seemed fragile under the scrutiny of the prosecution's narrative. Prosecutors countered with a meticulous dissection of Macaulay's alibi, demonstrating how the gaps in his timeline coincided eerily with critical moments in the case. They highlighted the improbability of Macaulay's coincidental presence near the crime scene, supported by both GPS records and witness sightings. A key moment came when a forensic expert testified about the smears and residues found in Macaulay's truck bed, which aligned precisely with materials at the site, a connection the defense could not satisfactorily refute. Each piece of evidence, though seemingly small on its own, combined into a damning mosaic of guilt. As the prosecution's case unfolded, the courtroom atmosphere grew tense, heavy with the realization that the puzzle was complete. The defense's counter-argument seemed increasingly hollow, unable to shake the growing certainty of Macaulay's guilt, which now seemed undeniable in the eyes of the jury. After a week of tense and emotional testimony, the jury delivered their verdict. Macaulay was found guilty on all charges, his fate sealed by the overwhelming weight of evidence and the undeniable truth of his actions. The verdict brought a measure of closure to Riley's grieving family and community. Macaulay was sentenced to life in custody without the possibility of parole. For Chantel and her family, the conviction was a step toward justice, though it could never undo the pain of losing Riley. In the years since Riley's case, her family has worked tirelessly to honor her memory. They have become advocates for safety and awareness, hoping to prevent similar tragedies. The community of Berkeley Springs continues to remember Riley as a bright and loving soul taken far too soon. Riley Crossman's story reminds us of the importance of vigilance and the enduring strength of a community united in resolve and justice. Her legacy is a testament to the power of perseverance and the unwavering determination to uncover the truth, no matter how deeply it may be buried. The tireless efforts of law enforcement, combined with the heartfelt support of her community, ensured that her voice was not silenced. In the face of overwhelming grief, her family transformed their loss into a mission to protect others, sparking conversations about safety, awareness, and justice. Riley's light continues to inspire those who remember her, serving as a poignant reminder that even in darkness, the strength of unity and hope can shine through. If this story moved you, help us continue shedding light on important cases and raising awareness about safety and justice. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that matter. Share this video to spread awareness, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest uploads. Your engagement helps us make a difference, one story at a time. Together, we can honor victims, support their families, and inspire change.